Good morning, everyone. I wanted to hear it all over again, that introduction. It was so nice. I'm delighted to be here with all of you today. It's always great to come to the Unity Center and have a chance to be here with you, and also to support the ministry of my beloved friend, Reverend Wendy, as I admire her and love her so much. We've had all kinds of great experiences together, and I'm looking forward to hearing about her trip when she gets back. So thank you so much for coming here today. And the talk for today is A Turn Within. And it seems like I get asked to speak at churches right around the change of the seasons. And when that happens, I can't help but sort of anchor into the energies and the flow and the work that the season asks us to do. Phil reminded me that years ago he heard some of this same talk a while ago, oh well. And it's what I love to speak about at the time, and hopefully those of you who've heard my fall talk before will also hear some new things. But I love centering into the energies and the activity of the planet. I spend a lot of time in my head. How about you? And so it is really wonderful to feel a part of the planet. I like the teachings of Rudolf Steiner. He says that the earth breathes and we breathe along with her. And so through the seasons, there's a change in the breaths. So we are right at the edge of a change, a cycle change. The equinox clocks in on September 23rd at 1:22 a.m. here out on the West Coast. And it is that time of perfect balance between, you could say, the inhale and the exhale breath. And we're coming out of the time of all this external activity in summer, all the doingness and all the light and all the heat, right? All the heat. And things begin to subtly shift. And they've been shifting actually for a while since the summer solstice, but it is pretty subtle. And so as we turn into this fall season, the energy starts to come more within. So the inhale phase begins, and over time, the daylight will shorten and the nighttime will lengthen, which it's been doing anyway, and growing will stop. It's, again, incredibly subtle here for us in San Diego. And as all of that stills, unfortunately, the temperatures will drop, at least that's my high thought. And so it's a time to move in. The earth moves in our hemisphere, and it's a time for us to do that as well. So it's a great time for contemplation and reflection and for doing some inner work around change. In the Native American tradition, we are in the west direction of the medicine wheel. I won't ask you which direction west is because I had everybody pointing in different directions. So clearly we don't know. We haven't a clue. Yeah, it feels that way to me maybe, but anyway, I don't know. And it's the time of harvest. And there are actually two activities that go on in that tradition for this time. And one is the cutting away of things. In order to harvest something, you do have to cut away the plant that has created the good, the fruit. But then it's to call the greater good to your heart. And Phil mentioned that in his meditation. It's just like the breath, the in and out of breath. We have to release before we can call in something greater into our experience. Things cannot occupy the same place at the same time, two different things. And so I want to focus in a little bit on the cutting away part or the releasing part. It's an opportunity to release what clouds our vision. It's an opportunity to let go of people, places, and things that really aren't our occupation right now, for whatever reason. Some of that has some owie factor to it. It is an incredible time for cleaning out wounds. The stone of the west direction is obsidian, which is volcanic glass. Creates a very sharp edge, and so it was used actually for the cleaning out of wounds. And to think of it less than literally, think about cleaning out what festers for you. What's that grudge or resentment or that thing that you keep kind of worrying over that really is not supporting the greatest experience of healing. We have to clean out those things so that wholeness can reassert itself, and wholeness always wants to reassert itself. We can engage in a time where it's very powerful to let go of our negative conclusions about life. We've all been traveling a path for a very, very long time, and we tend to accumulate all kinds of ideas, and some of those can settle into negativity, to let go of the negative conclusions that we have about life, to let go of the accusations that we lay on ourselves or other people, accusations of wrong being or wrongdoing. We barely know our own path, and yet sometimes we think that we know what somebody else ought to be doing. It's time to let it go. We don't know anyone else's path. But we do have the opportunity to dig deep into our own life experience under the surface and to realize in the letting go of the negative and the calling forth of the good that we have a chance to see what our life is really about. That each one of us is a whole being traveling a very, very deep path of unfoldment, and that truly everything that has taken place has served in some way. It has served to get you here today, as Phil said. It has served to awaken you. You're the most awake that you've ever been. You're the best that you've ever been. You're the most loving that you have ever been. Something's been working. Something's been working. And it's the willingness to look upon our lives and see the great good of it, that everything serves for us, that there are no missteps or mistakes, as convinced as we are about that sometimes. And everything is grist for the mill of that awakening in us. So I'd like to expand on the idea of releasing and welcoming in good, and to share, and really what it's about is the creative power of our thought, and how, we're part of the New Thought movement, which means anytime you wish, you may have a new thought about your life. And if you do, that's my meaning for New Thought. I'm sure there are other definitions, but I like that one. And if we do the real spiritual work that is required to release the old and to call in the new and really feel it at a deep level, things begin to change, because our life is born out of our thoughts. Our life is born out of our thoughts. So I want to expand on this idea a little bit and share with you from a book called The Power of Imagination by Neville Goddard. And I've had this book in a stack by my bed for a while. I am blessed to receive shipments of books from Tarcher Putnam Publishing, because they expect me to do, probably, even though they've never said it, exactly what I'm doing now, which is reading one of their books and supporting it. So Neville Goddard, The Power of Imagination. And I was going to put the book away, and I thought, I haven't even looked in this book. And so I just opened it, and what it opened to was a chapter that I'm going to share from called The Secret of Feeling. And it seemed to be the perfect thing to share today. I've learned to trust that when the book falls open, that's what I'm supposed to share about. So I would say that the secret of feeling is not really a secret anymore, that I think that we understand that part of the process of transformation is that we have to feel the new and to let it in deeply. What I didn't know is that there is a very ancient story behind the secret of feeling that I'm going to share a little bit with you about. And it comes out of the Middle East, and it's a story of a father and two sons and a lost birthright. Do you know what the story is? Some of you feeling back into your Bible days? So it's a story of Isaac, Esau, and Jacob, and don't let the names bother you. So the story is this, that Isaac was old and blind, and he felt that he was going to be leaving life. And so he wanted to bless his first son Esau, who happened to be a rough and hairy kind of guy. And he called Esau to him and said, "Go hunting and find venison and bring it back to me. And when you are successful on the hunt, I will bless you." Now, his second son, Jacob, who was the smooth-skinned kind of guy, happened to overhear this conversation, and Jacob desired the birthright. In other words, he wanted to be born through the blessing of his father. And all of these things have metaphysical meaning. And so Jacob overheard the conversation, and when Esau went off, he went hunting, and Jacob killed a kid from his father's flock and dressed it and put the skins on his body and prepared the food and brought this tastily prepared venison to the father. And the father said, "Come closer, my son, so I may feel you," because he was blind after all. Could only feel and touch. And as he put out his hand, he felt the hairy hair of the skins. And so in that moment, he blessed Jacob, and Jacob was given the birthright. So you can imagine how Esau felt when he came home and found out that he had been supplanted, and he called for justice. And the father said, basically, what's done is done. He says, "Your brother came to me with subtlety and has taken away the blessing. I have made him Lord." So forgive me if this presses into your family dynamics. That is not at all my intention. I had a thought that might be so for somebody. And on the face of it, it's not a great story. It really isn't, and we feel injustice about it. So hold on, wait for the metaphysics, okay? Hold on for the metaphysics. And here they are. That it's actually a teaching about how we manifest good. That Isaac, the father, represents our conscious awareness, the awareness of being. Esau, the hairy son, represents your conditions as they are now. Don't we use that phrase, the hairy condition? Wow, that's really a hairy situation. So Esau represents your conditions as they are now in your objective life, present environment, and also your present concept of self, because your life is born out of your present concept of yourself. Jacob, the smooth-skinned son, represents what you desire, your heart's desire, the thing that you are sensing, that you're longing for, that you're feeling about, that you're perceiving in an invisible way, and that you wish to have embodied in your life, but it isn't there yet. It has not been given the blessing of birth in your life yet. And yet, when it is properly felt and blessed and fixed as real within you, it will supplant the previous condition. And that's what the teaching is basically about. Which reminds me of that beautiful statement from the book of Revelation, which is, "Behold, I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things had passed away." That is a beautiful promise that we can see radical change, that the former things pass away and we see a new heaven, in other words, a new higher consciousness, and a new earth that results from that. So what the story teaches us is that we create by consciousness. The consciousness is the cause of our world. And I want to make a distinction between the planet and the world. The planet is this beautiful, living, breathing thing that we live on. That's our planet. And there are all kinds of things going on the planet. And yet the world is what we each carry around inside us based on our own consciousness and perceptions. And we talk as if those two things are the same thing, but they're really different. The world you live in is created by your own feeling and perception and your present concept of life and how that objectifies around you. The great law of life says, whatever I'm up against, I am creating. Interesting. Yeah. Whatever I'm up against, I am creating. And I always get what I feel I deserve, which are two talks I can do another time. I always forget what I feel I deserve. And so we're really out picturing a life all the time by what's in our consciousness. And the thing that's good about that is that they can change. So here is a process and a practice, and I'd actually like to do some spiritual practice with you, meditation-wise, and you'll decide whether this is crazy or inspired. You'll get to decide that yourself. But when we want to bring in a greater good, the advice is not to go groping around in time and space trying to get something and bring it into your life experience. Makes me think of that country western song, "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places," But rather, stand still, sit still in the consciousness of your being. Send the old conditions hunting. In other words, be willing to release the old condition, not in denial, but actually in terms of, for that time of your practice, turning your attention away from it so that you can turn your attention to what it is you really desire, your heart's desire, which you have every right to. I love Emma Curtis Hopkins' statement, "There's good for me and I ought to have it." And I'll say to you, there is good for you and you ought to have it. So turn your attention to the good and fix it in time and space and make it as real can be. real in every fiber and tissue and cell of your beingness. And then the promise is that over time, that new reality will supplant the old condition. And that's the practice of creative thought. So, will you practice with me? Okay. It was all 5 people. Good. Okay. But there's a saying that if 2 of you agree as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in heaven. In other words, if 2 of you agree, it will be done, because the combined faith of a number of people reaches a higher level of acceptance. And who's agreeing in this practice that we're about to do is your true self and your heart's desire. That's where the agreement is. And it's out of that powerful agreement that newness happens. So I invite you to close your eyes. And let me just say, as you're settling in now, that the secret of the change is the willingness and the ability to mentally separate your current condition from that which you sense and feel and desire. And so, in closing your eyes, and just take a moment to anchor physically so that you feel your feet on the floor and your body in the chair, that you're breathing into your heart center, meeting there the indwelling presence, the knower within you, the true self, the Isaac of your being. And just ask this inner knower to guide you now. And so allow to rise in your heart either something that you truly desire or what may come up first. No, let me phrase it that way. Let rise in your heart something that you truly desire. Let your inner self bring it up, see what it is. Breathe with it for a minute. And become aware that there is a whole condition that this new desire, as it manifests, will be the transformation of. In other words, the desire that you hold in your heart will transform an old condition. And the first order of business is to release that old condition. Send it hunting. Whatever is the story, however long it's been with you, all of the things that make it seem like it's so very real, it really is just a report of the past. And yet I know those conditions seem very real and very persistent. I have a few of them myself. But just imagine that you've sent this condition hunting, and you might even take your left hand and just move it to the left and move that thing off center and away. Just imagine that you're sweeping it away, releasing your attention to it and your attachment to it, and bring your attention back to your heart center and to the desire that is in your heart. The second thing to do is to fix your heart's desire in time and space in terms of its fulfillment. And so just ask the knower within, is there a particular time, a day of the week, a month of the year, a season, that would be natural for the fulfillment of this intention of mine, this heart's desire? And just acknowledge that now. And now allow yourself to fix the space, to fix in reality the place that would be a natural place for the fulfillment of this desire. And if it isn't this room where you're seated now, that your fulfillment would be naturally placed, then feel yourself seated in the room or at the place where it would be natural to be fulfilled. And see it now. It matters not if the place is thousands of miles away or only next door. The job here is to fix it in consciousness, and to fix in consciousness that right where you are seated now is that time and is that place. In other words, come into the fulfillment in this moment. And make there-ness here-ness, and make then now. Feeling that the very place you are is the place. The very time that it is the time. And that you are in the fulfillment of this good in this moment. So breathe and let it in. Let the fulfillment feel very real to you. See who you are with, what is taking place, what is happening. Connect with your joy in fulfillment. Feel the nearness of it. Mentally draw it close to you. And say this with me. Come close to me, my heart's desire, so I may feel you. Come close to me, my heart's desire, so I may feel you. Let's do it 2 more times. Come close to me, my heart's desire, so I may feel you. And 1 more time. Come close to me, my heart's desire, so I may feel you. And feeling the reality of it, you're inviting the good that your heart desires into the space that has been created by releasing your attachment to the old condition. And so arrive fully in the fulfillment right here, right now. And I'm going to give you some time to let it in fully, to feel it completely. And at any moment that you're ready, place your hands on your heart and just say yes. And so with a nice deep breath, you can open your eyes. You've just done some real spiritual practice for bringing a greater good into your life. Did you want more time? So the minute you open your eyes, the hairy situation wants your attention again. And yet the practice is to keep sending it hunting. Again, not in denial. There are things we have to deal with. But letting go of the idea that how it's been is the only way that it can be. Just keep releasing that and make more real this good that your heart desires, that you have now brought into embodiment within your being. Until the day when that new awareness, that new reality actually supplants the old condition. Wait for it. So it occurs to me that this kind of practice that we can do for ourselves, we could be doing for the world. There are a number of really, really difficult situations going on in the world. Have you noticed recently? Really amazing. I got emotional about this at the first service. I'm going to try not to do that this time, but I have my attention on Syria because I've been there twice, and I was thinking of people that I have met there, young girls, out in the street in the tea shops, and just a whole bunch of people. I have no idea, of course, how they're doing. I don't even know their names. But that has a personal importance to me, the things going on in the country and all of those refugees that are fleeing. And so it occurs to me that we could be doing this kind of accepting around something in the world. That when you read something or hear something that is troubling to you, to take it into your meditation time and do exactly the process that we did. Begin to send the condition hunting. In other words, it's pretty hard to imagine it not being so. But that somehow how it is right now is moving off scene. And that there is a greater good that is arriving so that people are safe, so they have home, so that they're taken care of, they're supplied, they have peace. Whatever it might be. There are many, many spots in the world that probably call your attention. This is how we can begin to use the creative power of thought to agree together that conditions can change. Because if we keep only focused on the condition, we keep repeating more of the condition, because whatever we focus on, that's what multiplies in our experience. How about if we try giving some of our meditation time to just seeing it differently? So that one day we could say, behold, I see a new heaven and a new earth, for the former things have passed away. And so it's easy. It hardly takes any time at all. And yet if we come together and agree that change is possible, that agreement is a mighty thing, because the combined faith of a group reaches a higher level of acceptance. And so I invite you to close your eyes. And so what I know is that we have the power within our own life to release the past and let go of our thought that how it's been is the only way that it can be. We have the power to call a greater good to us, to have a high thought about a new good. For there is good for us, and we ought to have it, the good of all things, the good of loving relationship, of beautiful expression, of supply, of friendship. Every good thing is ours to have. Because every good thing is what God is, and that which God is, we are. And what I accept is that we have the power to bless into newness of being, not only things for ourselves, but also for our world. That as we spend time in seeing something greater and possible, perhaps it just is that our combined faith reaches a higher level of acceptance and a change is done. And so I just simply give thanks for the time of being here together today. I know that Spirit is upon us. I know that we are here to do great and important work, that we are here to bind up the brokenhearted and proclaim liberty, that we are here to release those who have been imprisoned in the darkness of their own life experience. It is our great opportunity to do this. And so I know that that which was seen for each individual here, that greater good being called to the heart, is something that is being practiced right now, that it becomes more real than any condition that would seem to contradict it. And that the good that is ours to have, we claim right now as our birthright, and that we give it birth into our life experience. And so I simply give thanks, knowing that Spirit is the power that does the work, and I release this word knowing it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you so much.